Hi! Hello friends at the Office for Disarmament Affairs at the United Nations. I hope you're having a great day. My name is Fanny Menardi and I am applying for this mission to write a study about the Convention on certain conventional weapons and their impact on the environment. So all the documents that I mentioned in this video and that you need to know about my proven communication skills are available in the document section of my application. But I also wanted to make a video to introduce myself and tell you why I am the perfect person to write about this controversial topic. So the keyword really is controversial, because when we see what's going on in the world right now, between the wars and the conflicts, and our willingness really to support and help and protect the human rights, and at the same time not wanting to interfere to avoid escalation into global conflicts, this is really a controversy. So I would like first to present a little introduction about my journey as an author, and then explain a little bit the table of content of the study. So who am I? I am a French-American citizen. I've done many things in my life. I've been an art teacher, a languages teacher all around the world, in Peru, in Bahrain, a cultural coordinator. Now I am a science teacher in Jacksonville, Florida, but among all of these experiences, the common denominator was always to be an author. So as a cultural coordinator and languages teacher, I wrote a dozen of travel books to promote the cultural diversity. Then when I started my art business here in Jacksonville, when I became a mother, then I wrote this oracle card deck with my first art collection. And I also wrote, I wrote a children collection as well, that is not published yet. And my latest baby, the Pachamam Art Encyclopedia. So this is just half of it, but this is a 600 pages study on symbols and art and communication, and also presentation of my favorite organizations and inspirational leaders, like the United Nations, to help people improve the quality of their visuals or communication or application. I brought many copies of my application letters, for example, to really raise the level. With the social media, sometimes you don't know where the world is going, even in terms of philosophy and expertise. So this is why I'm really inspired by exceptional people like the Blue Angels, who have really amazing skills and that go deep into their specialty. As far as political topics, I wrote a lot during my master's degree about exactly this kind of topics. For example, I wrote about the Conga project. There was a conflict between mining companies that came to develop the economy of Peru with the approval of the governments, while it was actually having huge detrimental impacts on the ecosystem. So the local farmers went on to strike to counteract these conflicts, and then they won. I also made a study about the Plan de Salud Reproductiva, which is the plan of reproductive health by Alberto Fujimori in Peru between 1996 and 2000. That happened after the International Monetary Fund declared that Peru had to get out of poverty and help their communities. They came up with a vaccination campaign in the countryside that actually derived into the forceful sterilization of 300,000 indigenous women. The forceful sterilization of 300,000 indigenous women out of 1 million conducted 300,000 were reported forceful, and I think 3,000 women actually died. I mean, that really shows us the risk, you know, that every time there is an attempt to improve the economy, mostly when there is money involved, there is always a risk that it derives into a dictatorship, for people to have their ideas go exactly the way they want it. So that's why it's so important to constantly to create alliances and constantly discuss our strategies and to help each other, you know, be at our best. I also wrote my master's degree dissertation about the promotion of indigenous communities in Peru in a society full of contrast between the proud revendication of their origins nowadays, while in the 90s that was not really, it was more the shame of being indigenous. So how did they bring this back, you know, through mediatization and international promotion campaigns? So that was very interesting. I also wrote about anthropologists like Edward T. Hall that made a very deep study on proxemics to help us understand different cultures and how they can affect relationships between international communities. So definitely important in the world of diplomacy. So these are the main 4 documents that I wrote during my degree that are available on my website, and I changed my life and my vision of the world, trying not to be paranoid all the time, and at the same time wanted to be committed and involved in the international scene, and that I recommend everybody to read it. I wish people could read that so they could have a double vision about the media and what is happening in the world. So I put them online, so hopefully one day they will be published, and of course they will be available as well to the United Nations. Some of them are written in French and some of them are written in English. For the last few years I've been more interested into science, which is really going to help me to conduct this study, even though the convention on certain conventional weapons is more specific on humanitarian consequences. This study will be more about environmental outcomes of the wars and the impact of weapons. So it's all fresh in my head. I just got certified in Florida as a science teacher, so it's really going to help me describe the effect of weapons or chemical reactions on the soil, the air, the water, the ecosystem, the atmosphere, everything, really. And why am I writing? Why did I write about all these organizations? Because, you know, when you're one person mostly who traveled a lot and who had to restart their network everywhere you go, then sometimes you can feel so small and you'll be tempted to listen to this little voice in your head, or even other people telling you that you're too small, you know, to change the world, when you have these ideas of removing all the nuclear weapons from the surface of the world, or revoking the Second Amendment of the Constitution, and everybody is promoting the Constitution. No, bearing weapons is a constitutional right. You would think I have no power over this. And then one day I listened to the speech of Antonio Guterres. I don't know if it was the New Year speech for 2023 or during the International Day for nuclear removal. But he was talking about the nuclear blackmail that is happening. And this is exactly my way of thinking, that because we have these nuclear weapons, we cannot intervene in conflicts and stop the wars in the world, because there is always this threat of irreversible escalations. And when I heard this is really the day that I said, okay, I have to work at the United Nations, because I have this exact mindset. I am meant to work there, to be surrounded by people who don't necessarily all agree on all the topics, For example, vaccination is very controversial as well. We might not all have the same mindset about it or experience about it, but we all have the same value on compromises and listening to each other and acceptance. And this is what the first thing that you learn when you study international negotiation and conflict resolution is that not everybody is going to obtain what they want, because everybody has a different side of the story and experience depending where you are in the world. But the fact that we are able to discuss it helps us evolve toward the best case scenario for the general interest. So this is the number one necessity, I would believe, for an efficient negotiation and for a world that leads to peace, is that everybody feels heard and understood and is willing to put the community first, but still has the power to, or the conviction to bring their individual ideas so they can maybe help also the collective evolve. The United Nations, for me, is one of the most essential, inspirational, what did I write as well? Valuable organizations in the world, because not only you are helping for the collective, what is going to happen for the next generation, the global warming, and as an international community, without forgetting at a minimal scale, the individual person, what is one person feeling, what is their, maybe what are the challenges they're going through, the condition of women, their right, gender equality, but also their dream, their enthusiasm, and how can they reach it. So really having this balance between the individual scale and the global scale, and then finding a way to build a bridge and then making it happen through communities that are going to echo their mentality or their techniques. Okay. Of course, the fact that I have a huge background in South America, studied everything about indigenous communities, lived in Peru for 2 years. I am, my business is called Pachamama Art, so the voice of the world and nature. I have this deep connection with the environment, and I believe that indigenous tribes have so much to teach us about ancestral knowledge and medicine, holistic medicine. So writing about the weapons, like I said, it's a controversial topic, because why can't we intervene in these conflicts and put an end to the war and go in a war against terrorism and help these people? It's unacceptable that a war like this lasts for more than a week or a month. Immediately we should go there, and fix a problem with our neighbors or brothers and sisters, even if they're on the other side of the world. And at the same time, we have this responsibility to say we cannot fix violence by violence, and we have to show how dialogue can lead to peace instead of pushing the fight further. So it's constantly, so working in close collaboration with the UNODA is going to be a real inspirational challenge for me. So hopefully, after bringing more insights on the disastrous effects of warfare on the environment and the current and future generations, we can allow our partner organizations like NATO to intervene urgently and put an end to those conflicts. So let's talk about the table of content that I created already, and then we can of course work on it together. But in this study, we will focus more specifically on the effects of weapons on the environment by making an inventory of the existing and applicable international legal and normative framework relating to the protection of the environment and armed conflict, enumerate the consequences of weapon use on the ecosystem, and establish a plan of action to prevent conflicts, negotiate peace, and ensure remedial provisions where all actors contribute to repair our heritage or build a new world. So the first part would be really talking about this contrast of humanity between our wisdom and, however, our tendency to repeat the cycle of war. Then, of course, presenting the global goals for sustainable development, talking about the ecosystem and the actors of change. So who are the organizations involved? So the job offer talks about the Office for Development Affairs, the International Committee of the Red Cross. I also found the Conflict and Environment Observatory, who also had a study about this topic, mostly, yeah. So that's going to help me a lot for that study. The study I found was more focused on the conflict in Ukraine, most specifically. And then an inventory of the conventions and studies. So essentially the main part of the study would be a synthesis of all the documents, a presentation and synthesis of all the documents that exist that connect the weapons, the use of weapons in warfare, and the ecosystem, international convention, the terms and outcome, and then to go further in the third part, a plan of action and implementation, talking about solutions, okay, to prevent, deal with, and repair. So in prevention, before conflicts even happen, forming alliances to respect worldwide policies. Then during the conflicts, talking about the principle of reciprocity. So even though these protocols have to be implemented regardless of reciprocity, this is directly what we're facing right now, we still have to talk about exceptional cases, like what happens when your opponent does not respect reciprocity. Does it give us a right to go and interfere? I believe reciprocity is something that we should talk about in the negotiation points and strategies to end conflicts. For example, you can see that Russia and Brazil are allies in the BRICS, right? However, we all know that the relationship between Russia and the United States are not optimal. So what happens is that the President of the United States has had many meetings with the leader of China or the President of Brazil. Why is that? Of course, it is obviously to start approaching the other side and to say, okay, you have an alliances, but we are not enemy. We have common partners and common allies that maybe can also be a voice for re-establishing peace, because obviously Russia is obsessed by the monopoly of the United States in the world and wants to show that they also are a powerful force in the world. So nobody is contesting that. We actually have common interests, like the implementation of electric trains and the focus on renewable energy. So these are topics, common topics of interest that we can bring to the table to establish dialogue and then apply it to examples like the war in Ukraine. Remedial provision in combination with the application international legal framework. So remedial provision, of course, how to repair once the damage is done. How do we repair it? So the creation of associations, local communities. We could take examples of what happened in Hiroshima. What did Japan do after Hiroshima to rebuild their communities? That would be a very interesting topic to add in a study, to see how do you dynamize the ecosystem after catastrophes like this. There's also natural things, like for example, after an oil spill, you have some algae that eat the oil and that make them transmute them in less harmful materials. So maybe using nature also to fix the damages meant by human activity. But thank you for watching. Thank you for considering my application. I am looking forward to continuing this work and really making a beautiful study and proposal and collaboration between us. Please, I invite you to contact me as soon as possible so we can start the work, answer your questions, and moving forward. Have a great day. Thank you.